oddly quiet over the last couple of days as far as Porzingis goes and whether he's back for game one or back at some point in the series. We haven't really gotten any more clarification on that, have we?
Yeah, and I was talking last week about a long shot possibility of him as the Finals MVP, and I
Hmm.
was thinking about him again with looking at some of these stat categories. Is he going to be a full go from the start? Are they going to work him in slowly? Because the series
Yeah.
in the Eastern Conference Finals was so damn short that they weren't able to do that. I think in a perfect world, maybe he would have worked a little bit more into things. So I don't really know what to expect. Is he going to be part of this? Is he part of this conversation? Let's say, okay, so he was second on the team in rebounds per game in the regular
Uh-huh.
season, one board behind Tatum. So do we consider him at 16-1 for rebounds leader in the series? I don't know. Tatum's the odds-on favorite, and he averaged one more than Porzingis per game this year. So that kind of makes you think. Like, it's risky, but there's also a little value there. So let's go through
Yeah.
this. Let's start with the points leader. The
Okay.
favorite is Luka at minus
Yeah.
175. Then we get to Tatum at plus 250. Then we drop off into double digits beyond that. In in the West Finals, number one in that series was Luka. Number two in that series was Kyrie. I'm including the Minnesota players. I thought that was pretty interesting, just how dominant they were. And Luka was far
Yeah.
ahead of the pack. Now in the Eastern Conference, it was really close between Tatum and Brown. They were separated by 2 points in the scoring in that series. I don't think people realize just exactly how close it was. And we're looking at points leader in this series. I just said Tatum plus 250. It's Brown
Yeah.
12-1.
I know.
Wow.
That's
Like,
incredible
wow.
value for Jaylen Brown. Given the fact that we've
Yeah.
seen his propensity to have at least a game a series where he goes off, right? Where he either now the dramatic moments don't do much to give you the volume you need to be top point scorer in the series, but they are important. Maybe towards that MVP discussion that we continue to have as this series approaches. But he can fill it up, and if Dallas struggles on the defensive end, like that's my question: is how do they handle Tatum and Brown defensively? Like, is it let each of them have a little bit to eat? Is it lock one out? Is it, I'm curious and do they have the personnel to do any of that, right? Do they have the personnel to try and take one of them out of the game? I don't know. Defensively, I don't know if they do, Dallas. Like, I
Mhm.
think it's more about, hey, we're just going to try and keep these guys, one of these guys or any of these guys from killing us, and we'll get ours on the other end. Because I mean, Dallas is not a lockdown team defensively. I don't think they're going to do anything to take either one of these guys completely out of the series.
So here's how I'm looking at this, at least this category before we go to boards. Kyrie is 12-1. He cannot outscore Luka.
No.
As long as he's I mean, that's what you're asking. Who can outscore Luka? Tatum could, probably not enough value. Can Brown outscore Luka? There's a chance. I'd say there's a
It
better chance than Kyrie.
so I'm not. I kind of look at, and I'll get to this when I get to one of the special props that I really like in this series,
Yeah.
as well as the points and threes leaders. Um, there's two ways I look at this. Luca stays hot, right? And Luca cleans up. Like Luca leads in threes, Luca leads in points, Luca's MVP, the Mavericks win in 6 or 7, and he just continues to roll.
Hmm.
The other side of the coin, and where maybe I put a little bit just to kind of hedge to an extent on, hey, they coasted through the playoffs and they haven't really been tested yet, but that's just because they're clearly the best team in the league, is I put some on the Celtics. And if I'm putting anything on the Celtics, it's on Jaylen Brown because that's where the value is as compared to Tatum. And it's in the perfect middle ground, Joe, for me of value and reality, right? Like I can look at Porzingis at 40-1 or White 66-1 or whatever their MVP numbers may be as well. And I go, okay, that's nice. Those are really big numbers. But let's come back to reality, right? And the perfect middle ground between reality and value are Jaylen Brown's numbers. In particular, this one to lead the series in points at 12-1.
Threes made. Luka's the favorite, but everybody's plus money here. It's plus 110 for Luka. Derek White plus 350. Then we get to Kyrie and Tatum, 17-1. Porzingis 20-1.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to be very difficult to beat Luka. In the Western Conference Finals, he had 10 more made threes than anybody else in the series. And in the
Yeah.
East, it was all bunched up. You had a few guys with 11, you had a few guys with 10, and then just volume-wise, Luka. I mean, maybe we should just bet Luka.
Luka's three-point shooting has been getting better round by round through the playoffs. First round, 24%. Second round, 39%. You just mentioned the Western Conference Finals. He was hitting at 43.4% from beyond the three-point line in the Western Conference Finals. To get more value out of that Luka to lead in threes bet, which is just slightly better than even money right now, give me Luka to make 3 or more threes in each game of the series at plus 250.
I highlighted Luka to make 4+ threes in each game of the series at 14-1.
14-1. Yeah.
So
I like the little roll there.
I'm probably being greedy, but same thought process, same exact bet.
Yeah.
We like that. So yeah, Luka with the made threes, that jumped out to me as well.
Luka to lead the game one and lead the series in 3-pointers, I think is a pretty good bet right now and seems kind of like a steal. Derek White would be someone I would sprinkle, but I don't see Jason Tatum going nuclear from three. I think he'll get a lot of his points in the paint, the free throw line, and such. And I don't know if you guys have a disagreement there on 3-pointers, but
Nope.
it's hard for me to see anyone besides Luka.
Nope. We landed on the exact same thing. Luka for
Yeah,
threes
cool,
made in the
cool.
series is plus money. That feels like stealing. And we brought up you could bet Luka to make at least 3 threes in each game, which I believe he did last year. There's also at least
Yeah,
4 threes in each game at 14-1, which I think
I love
isn't
that.
the worst bet in the world. Yeah, that could be a good look
Yeah.
too. Any other game one props looks that you have down for Thursday?
For the props, that's pretty much it for me so far. I like the games and the
Okay.
side a little bit more than a lot of the props in this one because it's a fill up process, right? We're going to be trying to see what players are going to step up. What's the minute restrictions on certain players? Obviously, Porzingis is coming back in this game. So, what does that mean for some of the bench players for Boston? How much does Al Horford play, for example? But the Mavericks, like I said, I came on last week. I said game one, I'd be taking the Mavericks if I'm taking the spread here. The 6.5 would be fine with me. And I like overs in game ones of the NBA Finals, usually in the
Mhm.
series in general, because you're trying to find out how these teams are switching, how they're playing on your stars. Are they trapping Luka, Tatum, Brown, or Kyrie at certain points? If they do, how are they rotating? How can these guys also be efficient without being ball stoppers, which is a nice term for saying a ball hog? Because at times Luka Doncic is not going to pass. Tatum's going to get the ball and everything's going to freeze. So we're going to have to see how these teams play off of that. So I always like the over at 214.5. Seems kind of low. Once we get to game four, game five, we're going to see this drop down to the 209s, 207s, 208s. So right now, it's showing you this is probably going to be one of the higher scoring games of the series, if not the highest scoring. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this one. And last thing I'll say on that is I like Boston to win the series, although I think we might get a better price if Dallas wins game one. And historically speaking, Dallas's defense should be an issue because only 3 teams in the history of the NBA has won with a defense ranked outside the top 10. They're 18th. So when Dallas wins in the series or is competing, the over should probably be the bet that hits if Dallas covers the spread. And for Boston, who has the fourth best defensive efficiency of all time, they'll likely win by defense. So when Boston wins, I'd be looking at unders, or if you think Boston's going to win, I'd be looking at playing the under.